There's a place where my childhood stands still, and a house on the side of a hill. All the memories that kiss me, whisper their mystery, make it seem so alive and so real. It's a place filled with love and with laughter, something I've tried my whole life to capture. And I'd love to go there for that piece of my soul there in that house on the side of the hill. All the memories that kiss me and whisper their mystery in that house on the side of the hill. And it goes on. That's the opening of a song that I wrote so many years ago. I guess 1977, as a tribute to our mom and dad, Chuck and Pauline, and our sister, Patty, who died far too young. And really to celebrate what it was like for the six of us kids growing up in that house in that little town of Freedom, PA, 25 miles down the river from where we are right now in Pittsburgh. It was a great moment for me to be able to do that and share that with my family and friends. So many years later, this year, I used that same song for some of the glue to hold together a story, a play called Run the Rabbit Path, also dedicated to our mom and dad, that was staged by the Pittsburgh Irish and Classic Theater at the elegant Fred Rogers Studio Theater for about 15 performances. And before that, a festival of 5 of my new plays at the Pittsburgh Playwrights Theater, a gem of a theater just a short walk from here. So I'm very blessed in my life. It's quite a moment for me, really, all these moments. And what I've discovered late in my life, I know, it's about time, Ray, is that I'm a collector. And what I collect are the moments that have helped shape my life and make me who I am. And we all have these moments. We all have these moments. And what I try to do is I take some of these moments and I take little pieces of them and a little imagination. I try to create true stories that never happen. They're called plays. And what I've also discovered, though, that these moments that shape our lives, they often drift into a corner and they get covered up with the debris of life and they're forgotten and maybe even sometimes lost. And we can't let that happen, can we? We can't. We're not going to let it happen because right now we're going to rediscover some of these moments in your lives that have helped shape your life and make you who you are. Now, I'm not an expert in moments. I'm an expert in my moments. But you are an expert in your moments. You are. A wise man once said, nothing happens until someone gets excited. And it's so true. You're going to be so excited about some of these moments in your life that when you go to bed tonight and you look up at the ceiling, you're going to see a few of these gems streaming across your ceiling in a video. You will. And they'll make you smile. And when you go to sleep with a smile, what happens? Right, you wake up with a smile. Thank you. So to entice some of these moments out of the corner of your lives, I'm going to share a few of mine. And I'm going to leave you with one that is guaranteed to get you started. I usually never use the word guarantee with any of my ideas, anything I write. I usually give a 30-day warranty, and you can return it if you keep a receipt. But I think I'm on safe ground with this one. So here's a moment that just fell out of the blue. After studying playwriting at the Yale School of Drama, a stint there, I got a job as a copywriter in advertising, writing and producing television commercials and campaigns, and I loved the business. I put a clamp on my head. And I worked with a lot of wonderfully talented people, and that's the secret, right, to success. Surround yourself with talented people. So this is in the Madman area. So we're flying into New York City to finish a commercial the next day. And you've been there. All the city lights beneath you as you approach the city, thousands and thousands of lights. But this night, I was overwhelmed by the realization that every one of those lights represents a family, a husband and wife, trying to make it, trying to make a family, trying to make a go of it. And at the end of a long day, there's a good chance they're going to sit in front of the TV to relax. They're going to see this commercial that I wrote. But there's also a good chance they don't need what I'm trying to sell them, or they don't want it. But I'm borrowing their lives anyhow. So I owe them something. I sure do. What do I owe them? Well, respect. Start there. An idea. A human touch, maybe a smile, something, so that at the end of our time together, they're okay with it. Maybe they even enjoy themselves, hopefully. And I wrote this down. I really did, so I wouldn't lose the moment. When you borrow someone's life, you owe them something. Yes. Now, aren't you glad I didn't lose that moment? Because I'm borrowing your lives right now, right? Now, you don't feel the pressure? You don't? I don't know. Maybe it has something to do with this red dot I'm standing on. So great moments happen to us when we're traveling. And I'll call this a leprechaun moment. So with our oldest son, Larkin, we traveled halfway across Papua New Guinea with this most amazing priest, Father Dunstan Jones, our cousin, our very good friend. The people there loved him so much. And he was a Capuchin Franciscan missionary. So he took the vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience, and he took them seriously. He did. He owned nothing. I said to him one night, I said, Father Dunny, I could have called him Father Leprechaun because he looked like one. He had this colorful hat. He had this great scraggly beard and this Irish face. I said, Father Dunny, the vow of poverty, I don't get it. He owned the shirt on his back. He said, Ray, he had this great laugh. He said, you don't own anything until you give it away. Then you own it. Well, there's some truth to that, isn't there? We accumulate so much in our lives that ends up in the basement, it ends up in the attic. Hey, you want to go golfing this Saturday? Yep. No, we're having a garage sale, another one, that happens. All these storage lockers going up across America, millions of them, loaded with stuff that nobody knows what to do with. And so many of them abandoned. It's true. So here we are. We're giving you some ideas this morning. You're giving us your valuable time. The university is giving us this great venue, and now we own something. We really do. And I think we owe each other a thank you. Turn to the person next to you. Thank the person next to you. Give them a hug, a high five, something. Thank you. Thank you for being here. It's important to say thank you. It's always important to say thank you. So Susan and I, my wife Susan and I, we love to travel and we love to go to Ireland when we can. So about 10 years ago or so, we're in Donegal, one of our favorite places in the world, magnificent country. Hi, how are you? We have some good friends there now. So we're in Donegal, and I've decided to become a playwright. I'm already 70 years old, so I'm in the middle of this trilogy, and I'm stuck in the middle of it. I don't know if I can do this or not. And Susan says, I know you want to go to the Paddy Kavanagh Center. This is the day to do it because tail end of our trip. Thank you, Susan. Great timing. So we travel all the way across the island in the rain. I get us lost. I don't listen to Susan's directions. We don't get there until 3 o'clock. They close at 5. In this great little museum of Paddy Kavanagh's work, he was a mystic, the farmer poet of Ireland. We're there for 2 good hours. On the way home, I said, Susan, thank you, because a line dropped into my life today that really means a lot to me. Well, what was that? And one of his poems begins this way. To be dead is to not believe in the masterpieces we will begin tomorrow. Thank you, Patty. I finished those plays in about 5 or 6 weeks. I still think of that line when I need a nudge to help keep me going, to keep me writing. Okay, maybe not masterpieces, but pieces, so I'm halfway there, right? Plus, I'm still alive. Well, I told you he was a mystic, So I love to bake bread. Here's a bread moment. I have a wood-fired brick oven up in the Allegheny Mountains. I call it Fumo Sancto, holy smoke. And I've experimented with all kinds of grains and breads, and I fed a lot of deer. The deer love my bread. Come on, get back in line there, So it was inspired by the wood-fired brick oven of Lionel Palan in Paris. So we're in Paris, celebrating our 36th wedding anniversary, 17 years ago. Do the math. I said, I have to find a way to interview this most famous baker in the world and write an article about him and get it published, which I somehow managed to do. We spent 2 hours together. The man is magnificent. He's so engaging, so sharing with his knowledge and his stories. He said, Ray, where did you get your love for baking bread? I said, from my dad. When I was 16 years old, he made bread every week. In fact, during the Great Depression, our dad made bread all night with his buddy. And then they borrowed another friend's truck and drove around to sell it during the day. They made $1 a day each. He loved that story. He said, my dad taught me how to bake bread. He said, you know, when you work with your hands, and he used his hands, he said, whatever it is, baking bread or gardening or cooking or tinkering with a car, we all have something. He said, it takes you back to who you are. Yes, I think about my dad every time I bake bread. Here is a gem waiting for you. It's going to be a highlight on the ceiling tonight. What takes you back to who you are? You'll find it. You'll find it. 8 days after this glorious 2 hours with Lionel Palan, he and his wife died in a helicopter crash. He was a pilot. It was bad weather. The world of baking fell to its knees. Thank you, Lionel Palan, for taking all of us back to who we are and for the great bread that you made. So here's a moment that followed me home one day and still follows me around a lot. Our mother used to say, something good comes from everything. That's hard to comprehend, isn't it? Our sister Rita, what could be good about Alzheimer's? That dreaded illness that takes everything you have. Our sister Rita died of Alzheimer's just 2.5 years ago. It took 5 years. After a couple of years, she didn't know your name. I would visit her at this wonderful facility with, at lunchtime, other Alzheimer's patients there. And I said to Rita, how about Mom and Dad, Chuck and Pauline? That was some love story, wasn't it? She said, it sure is. To Rita, they were still alive. So they would talk about our childhood. What a gift to me. And I'm working on this play I just told you about. What a gift. After supper, most evenings, Rita played the piano beautifully. So we'd stand around the piano and sing old songs for a while. So in that lunchroom, I'd just pull an old song out of the air. You know, be sure it's true when you say, I love you. And Rita's sweet voice would come in. It's a sin to tell a lie. And over in the corner, millions of hearts have been broken. And the whole place would come alive with just because these words were spoken. And this one old guy always sat by himself. All he said was, one more, one more, one more. So I give him one more, one more. Something good followed me all the way home. Everybody who visited Rita left with something good. My brothers Larry and Bernie, my sister Kathleen, her Susan, our kids, her loving husband Joe, her 5 sons, their beautiful families, all the parishioners of St. Felix Parish in Freedom, they all left with something good. All of us did because, you know, it was Rita. Are you getting the drift here? Are you catching on now about these moments in your life? You know, it's the best news all week, the clue that you've been looking for, the stone that the builders rejected that becomes the cornerstone. You know, a breath of fresh air, another crack at it, a hole in the fence. The Irish have a way of putting it, it's like a friend who comes in when the rest of the world goes out. And where do they come from? They come from a page, from a book, from a poem, from an old guy on the bench, from a child, from a grandmother getting a cappuccino, off the page, off the bed, off the record, out of the sky, and they fall right into your lap. And then they fall by the wayside. And why is that? Because life gets all clouded up with living, doesn't it? It sure does. We worry about what we're supposed to worry about, what we have to do, what we want to do, and what we'll never do. So we have to turn the fog lights on and dust off some of those gems in the attics of our lives. They're there for the taking. You know, so take them with you on your journey. You know what they are? These are your very own personal parables. Yeah, that's what they are. Oh my goodness, I forgot something. I'm sorry. They don't belong to you, do they? Not until you what? Until you what? Until you give them away. Right. So you have to share them and scatter them. You know, they're there for the taking, so take them with you on your journey. You know, if you don't do it for me, you know, do it for my mom and dad. Will you give it a try? Will you give it a try? Huh? Some of these, huh? Will you give it a try? We'll meet me halfway here. Do a little bit more of that. All right? Yeah, and if you don't do it for me, do it for my mom and dad, Chuck and Pauline. My brother took this picture of my brother Bernie. It's a gem. It's who they are. It's who they are. So I'll tell you what, I would love to see those videos tonight. They're going to be amazing. They will. You know, what's wrong with me? How can I do that? You'll be in bed. You know, honey, look at the ceiling. Wake up. What? There's some great moments in my life up there. What? You woke me up. I know, but you're in some of them. Wow. Thank you for waking me up. You're welcome. Yeah. Who's that old guy beside you? So, have fun with it. This is a lot of fun to do as well. So here's that last moment I promised you. I'm about 12 years old. I'm in the backyard. My mother calls me in. Ray, come on in here. I need to talk to you. Well, you never wanted to disappoint our mother. She never raised her voice. She had a certain charism. The ancient Greeks called it. People went to Pauline for advice all the time. I go in the kitchen. Sit down here. I have to sit down. I'm in for it now. She said, now I'm going to tell you something, and don't you ever forget it. Okay. Promise me. Okay, Mom. Are you listening? Yeah. And she had these penetrating hazel eyes that went right into your soul. She said, there is something great inside you, and don't you ever forget it. Okay. You promised me. Okay, Mom. Okay, that's it, and go out and play. I ran out of there. Boy, that was a close call. Yeah. So I never thought of that for 20, 25 years until I did something in my life that wasn't so great. And there I was at that table with my mother, and it helped me turn a corner in my life. So here's what I'm asking you to do. Find someone you know who could use a lift, someone you admire, someone you love, and find a moment. Then gather up all of the compassion, all of the care, all of the love that you have, and look them in the eye and tell them, there is something great inside you, and don't you ever forget it. And I know this much to be true. When you change someone's life, it changes yours forever. Of the moments that kiss me and whisper their mystery. Thank you for this moment for me. Thank you very much. Thank you.